Back to another daily 1 Year Bible read on the channel. Today is day 150 in a row, chat. 150 days in a row. 150 days in a row, baby. Today we're going to be reading from May the 30th. We're almost at the end of the month, chat. Yeah, you say May the 30th, but this is the 28th because we're 2 days early, man. We started 2 days early. We couldn't wait to get started, so we started 2 days early, you know? But we're still doing a 365-day 1 Year Bible read, chat. And today's word is coming from 2 Samuel 15:23 through 16, going through verse 23. John 18:25 through 19. Psalms 119, 113 through 128, and Proverbs 16:10 through 11. Okay, so without further ado, day 150 in a row of our 1 Year Bible read. Let's get into it. Starting with 2 Samuel 15:23 through 16. Everyone cried out loudly as the king and his followers passed by. They crossed the Kidron Valley and then went out toward the wilderness. Zadok and all the Levites who came along carrying the Ark of the Covenant of God, they set down the Ark of God, and Abithur offered sacrifices until everyone had passed out of the city. Then the king instructed Zadok to take the Ark of God back into the city. If the Lord sees fit, David said, he will bring me back to see the Ark in the tabernacle again. But if he is through with me, then let him do what he seems best to him. The king also told Zadok, the priest, look, here's my plan. You and Abithur should return quietly to the city with your son Ahimaaz and Abithur's son Jonathan. And I will stop at the shallows of the Jordan River and wait there for a report from you. So Zadok and Abithur took the Ark of God back to the city and stayed there. David walked up the road to the Mount of Olives. What's up, Justin? Hey, what's up? Welcome to the stream, bro. Hey, one's good enough. What's up with you, Potato, the Dev Studio? How you doing? See, you're not the only one anymore. Justin, you're not the only one anymore, bro. You're not alone. How you doing, Raph? Hey, how y'all doing? Happy. What's up with you, DS Nubstep? I'm Dubstep. I said Nubstep. What's up with you, Ronaldo? You're not alone, bro. See, all you have to do is say you're alone. You got friends. You're your friends. Happy Wednesday to everybody. How y'all doing? Hey, appreciate the sub. Thank you for the sub. I appreciate it. Thank you for the likes. What's my favorite color? My favorite color is red, purple. Yeah, those are my 2 favorite colors now. Red and purple. Now let's keep on reading though, chat. So then the king instructed Zadok to take the Ark of God back into the city. If the Lord sees fit, David said, he will bring me back to see the Ark in the tabernacle again. But if he is through with me, then let him do what he seems best to him. The king also told Zadok the priest, look, here's my plan. You and Abithur should return quietly to the city with your son Ahimaaz and Abithur's son Jonathan. I will stop at the shallows of the Jordan River and wait there for a report from you. Hey, what's up, Ronaldo? Hey, appreciate the huge fan. I'm a huge fan of you. And stay there. David walked up the road to the Mount of Olives, weeping as he went. His head was covered and his feet were bare as a sign of mourning. And the people who were with him covered their heads and wept as they climbed the hill. When someone told David that his advisor Ahithophel was now backing Absalom, David prayed, O Lord, let Ahithophel give Absalom foolish advice. When David reached the summit of the Mount of Olives, where people worship God, Hushai the Archite was waiting for him there. Hushai had torn his clothing and put dirt on his head as a sign of mourning. But David told him, if you go with me, you will only be a burden. Return to Jerusalem to tell Absalom, I will now be your advisor, O king, just as I was your father's advisor in the past. Then you can frustrate and counter Ahithophel's advice. Zadok and Abithur, the priest, will be there. Tell them about the plans being made in the king's palace, and they will send their sons Ahimaaz and Jonathan to tell me what is going on. What's up, Zoro? How you doing, bro? My favorite animal, my 2 boys. Oh, and my lizard. and my lizard. So I got multiple favorite animals, actually. I have my lizard, Nubby, and my 2 boys, Eli and Alfie. Those are my favorites. Those are my favorite animals. um, okay, let's keep reading though. Man, the king's palace. They will send sons of men to tell me what's going on. There we go. So David's friend Hushai returned to Jerusalem, getting there just as Absalom arrived. When David had gone a little beyond the summit of Mount Olives, Ziba, the servant of Mephibosheth, was waiting for him there. He had 2 donkeys loaded with 200 loaves of bread, 100 closes of raisins, and 100 bunches of summer fruit, and wineskin full of wine. What are these for? The king asked Ziba. Ziba replied, the donkeys are for the king's people to ride on, and the bread and the summer fruit are for the young men to eat. The wine is for those who become exhausted in the wilderness. And where is Mephibosheth, Saul's grandson? The king asked him. He stayed in Jerusalem, Ziba replied. He said, today I will get back the kingdom of my grandfather Saul. In that case, the king told Ziba, I give you everything Mephibosheth owns. I bow before you, Ziba replied. May I always be pleasing to you, my lord the king. As King David came to Bahurim, a man, okay, you're stepping on my book, bud. What am I reading? I'm reading the 1-year Bible. I'm gonna need you to get down, baby. When you start stepping on the book, bro, I'm gonna need you to drop. But let me read chat real quick. Can I get a shot? What's up, Justin? Shout out to Justin. Hey, what's up, Randy? Welcome back. Oh, here we go with this again. This is why you gotta get down, bud. Still love you, but you distracted me. Okay. I bow before you, Ziba replied. May I always be pleasing to you, my lord the king. As David came to Bahurim, a man came out of the village, cursing them. It was Shimei, son of Gera, from the same clan as Saul's family. He threw stones at the king and the king's officers and all the mighty warriors who surrounded him. Get out of here, you murderer, you scoundrel, he shouted at David. The Lord is paying you back for all the bloodshed in Saul's clan. You stole his throne, and now the Lord has given it to your son, Absalom. At last you will taste some of your own medicine, for you are a murderer. Why should this dead dog curse my lord the king? Abishai, son of Zeruiah, demanded. Let me go over and cut off his head. No, the king said. Who asked your opinion, you sons of Zeruiah? If the Lord has told him to curse me, why are you to stop him? Then David said to Abishai and to all his servants, my own son is trying to kill me. Doesn't this relative of Saul have even more reason to do so? Leave him alone and let him curse, for the Lord has told him to do it. And perhaps the Lord will see that I am being wronged and will bless me because of these curses today. So David and his men continued down the road, and Shimei kept pace with them at a nearby hillside, cursing and throwing stones and dirt at David. Read real quick. No problem. Hey, he said thank you. Is your mic okay? And would you like to join my Rocket League team? Any rank doesn't matter how good. I bet. Yeah, for sure. I definitely do. What's my favorite game? Like game? Like game on a computer? Probably Rocket League right now. Probably Rocket League right now. Real game in real life, basketball. Not saying Rocket League isn't a real game, but you know, physical game, basketball. What's up, Troxton? Welcome back, bro. Have you seen a bit? Well, I think I saw you yesterday. You too, bro. See you later, Zero. Okay, let's continue where we were though. Stones and dirt at David. The king and all who were with him grew weary along the way, so they rested when they reached the Jordan River. Meanwhile, Absalom and all the army of Israel arrived at Jerusalem, accompanied by Ahithophel, when David's friend Hushai the Archite arrived. He went immediately to see Absalom. Long live the king, he exclaimed. Long live the king. Is this the way you treat your friend David? Absalom asked him. Why aren't you with him? I'm here because I belong to the man who was chosen by the Lord, and by all the men of Israel, Hushai replied. And anyway, why shouldn't I serve you? Just as I was your father's advisor, now I will be your advisor. Then Absalom turned to Ahithophel and asked him, what should I do next? Ahithophel told him, go and sleep with your father's concubines, for he has left them here to look after the palace. Then all Israel will know that you have insulted your father beyond hope of reconciliation, and they will throw their support to you. So they set up a tent on the palace roof and where everyone could see, and Absalom went in and had sex with his father's concubines. Absalom followed Ahithophel's advice, just as David had done. For every word Ahithophel spoke seemed as wise as though it had come directly from the mouth of God. In chat, that was the end. Can you have mod? You have to have a certain percentage. Hey, what's up, Niche? Welcome back. You have to have a certain percentage of um, show up time to the chat to apply for mod. You have to have at least a 90% show up time average. I do the math from the day you asked to become a mod. I start doing the math from that day forward. Now it's 2 Samuel 15:23 through 16. Hey, I have to know that you're dedicated. I have to do something to know that you're dedicated. This is my 4th time being here. Yeah. You're about four out of 6. Since the first time you asked me about this, you're about 4 out of 6. That's not a 90. But you're almost there. But now, John 18:25 through 19. Meanwhile, as Simon Peter was standing by the fire warming himself, they asked him again, "You're not one of his disciples, are you?" He denied it, saying, "No, I am not." But one of his household slaves of the high priest, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, asked, "Didn't I see you out there in the olive grove with Jesus?" Again, Peter denied it, and immediately a rooster crowed. Jesus' trial before Caiaphas ended in the early hours of the morning. Then he was taken to the headquarters of the Roman governor. His accusers didn't go inside because it would defile them, and they wouldn't be allowed to celebrate the Passover. So Pilate, the governor, went out to ask them and asked, "What is your charge against this man?" "We wouldn't have handed him over to you if he weren't a criminal," they retorted. "Then take him away and judge him by your own law," Pilate told them. "Only the Romans are permitted to execute someone," the Jewish leaders replied. This fulfilled Jesus' prediction about the way he would die. Then Pilate went back into his headquarters and called for Jesus to be brought to him. "Are you the king of the Jews?" he asked him. Jesus replied, "Is this your own question, or did the others tell you about me?" "Am I a Jew?" Pilate retorted. "Your own people and their leading priests brought you to me for trial. Why? What have you done?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not an earthly kingdom. If it were, my followers would fight to keep me from being handed over to the Jewish leaders. But my kingdom is not of this world." Pilate said, "So you are a king?" Jesus responded, "You say I am a king. Actually, I was born and came into the world to testify to the truth. All who love the truth recognize that what I say is true." "What is truth?" Pilate asked. Then he went out again to the people and told them, "He is not guilty of any crime, but you have a custom of asking me to release one prisoner each year at Passover. Would you like me to release this king of the Jews?" But they shouted back, "No, not this man. We want Barabbas." Barabbas was a revolutionary. Then Pilate had Jesus flogged with the lead-tipped whip. The soldiers wove a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and they put a purple robe on him. "Hail, King of the Jews," they mocked, as they slapped him across the face. Pilate went outside again and said to the people, "I am going to bring him out to you now, but understand clearly that I find him not guilty." Then Jesus came out wearing the crowns of thorns and the purple robe. And Pilate said, "Look, here is the man." When they saw him, the leading priests and the temple guards began shouting, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" "Take him yourselves and crucify him," Pilate said. "I find him not guilty." The Jewish leaders replied, "By our law, he ought to die because he called himself the Son of God." When Pilate heard this, he was more frightened than ever. He took Jesus back into the headquarters again and asked him, "Where are you from?" But Jesus gave no answer. "Why don't you talk to me?" Pilate demanded. "Don't you realize that I have the power to release you or crucify you?" Then Jesus said, "You would have no power over me at all unless it were given to you from above. So the one who handed me over to you has the greater sin." Then Pilate tried to release him, but the Jewish leaders shouted, "If you release this man, you are no friend of Caesar. Anyone who declares himself a king is a rebel against Caesar." When they said this, Pilate brought Jesus out to them again, and then Pilate sat down on the judgment seat on the platform that is called the stone pavement, in Hebrew, Gabbatha. It was now about noon on the day of the preparation for the Passover, and Pilate said to the people, "Look, here is your king." "Away with him," they yelled. "Away with him. Crucify him." "What? Crucify your king?" Pilate asked. Do a backflip is crazy. "We have no king but Caesar," the leading priest shouted back. Then Pilate turned Jesus over to them to be crucified. So they took Jesus away, carrying the cross by himself. He went to the place called Place of the Skull, in Hebrew, Golgotha. There they nailed him to the cross. 2 others were crucified with him, one on either side. with Jesus between them. And Pilate posted a sign on the cross that read, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. The place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and the sign was written in Hebrew, Latin, and Greek, so that many people could read it. Then the leading priest objected and said to Pilate, change it from the King of the Jews to, he said, I am King of the Jews. Pilate replied, no, what I have written, I have written. And now, Psalms is Pilate, not Pilate. Okay. All right, Jake. My fault. Big spit. Could I still read the Bible as a struggling alcoholic? Of course. Why would that make any difference? Why would that make any difference? That doesn't make any sense. I'm not gonna overspeak. It doesn't matter. yeah, you could definitely still read. Now, Psalms 119, 113 to 128. Samek, I hate those who divided loyalties. I hate those with divided loyalties, but I love your instructions. You're my refuge and my shield. Your word is my source of hope. Get out of my life, you evil-minded people, for I intend to obey the commands of my God. Lord, sustain me as you promised, that I may live. Do not let my hope be crushed. Sustain me, and I will be rescued. Then I will meditate continually on your decrees. But you have rejected all who stray from your decrees. They are only fooling themselves. You skim off the wicked of the earth like scum. No wonder I love to obey your laws. I tremble in fear of you. I stand in awe of your regulations. And now this is coming from my end. Don't leave me to the mercy of my enemies, for I have done what is just and right. Please guarantee a blessing for me, and don't let the arrogant oppress me. My eyes strain to see your rescue, to see the truth of your promise fulfilled. I am your servant. Deal with me in unfailing love, and teach me your decrees. Give discernment to me, your servant, then I will understand your laws. Lord, it is time for you to act, for these evil people have violated your instructions. Truly, I love your commands more than gold, even the finest gold. Each of your commandments is right. That is why I hate every false way. And now Proverbs 16, 10 through 11. The king speaks with divine wisdom. He must never judge unfairly. The Lord demands accurate scales and balances. He sets the standards for fairness. And now Pilate knew Jesus was king. See, I took your advice, Jake. Let's read this real quick, chat. Now, Pilate said that Jesus was innocent, then turned him over to be crucified. Pilate had a sign placed on top of the cross saying, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. The priest requested it to be changed. The change to be read, he said, I am King of the Jews, John 19:21. Pilate told him to leave it. Was it because Pilate knew who Jesus was? Accurately knowing about Jesus is quite different than accepting him as our Savior, who paid the price for our sin. Let us truly know Jesus, making sure we don't miss God's kingdom because we only knew about Jesus. Verbiage. George Floyd. That's not cool, bro. I hope that dude rest in peace. You imitated him and doing that's not cool. That ain't cool. You should let that guy rest in peace. Because that ain't cool. All right. And honestly, I'm thinking I'm ban you for that. Not gonna lie. You're banned, brother. Or hidden. Whichever one. Doesn't matter to me. Let he who has not sinned cast the first stone. You saying that he was on Fenty and he's going to HEW hockey sticks is not your decision, brother. It's not your decision, brother. Not gonna lie. It's not your choice. You don't get to make that choice. If you haven't sinned, then cast a stone. But I guarantee you can't. But I guarantee you can't. So how about you watch what you got to say about somebody else you never spoke to before? All right. Now, chat, we're going to turn off this camera really quickly, right? Ask for clarity, wisdom, and discernment on the day's word, and then I'll be right back. Hey, babe. See my child? Chat, you see my child? Okay, now chat, we're back to talk about today's word, right? So um let's go over the verses we read from the day, chat. So we read from 2 Samuel 14, 1 through 15. We followed up Samuel with John 18, 1 through 24. We followed up John with Psalms 119, 97 through 112. And then Proverbs 16, 8 through 9 to wrap up today's / tonight's read. But I want to start with reading Proverbs 16, 8 through 9. Better do, oh, wrong page. And also I just said the wrong chapters. Let's do that again, chat, because I read the wrong ones. We read from 2 Samuel 15, 23 through 16. Then we read from John 18, 25 through 19. We followed it up with Psalms 119, 113 through 128. And then Proverbs 16, 10 through 11. I started to read the Proverbs and I was like, I read it yesterday. But now let's read Proverbs. Proverbs, the king speaks with divine wisdom. He must never judge unfairly. The Lord demands accurate scales and balances. And he sets the standards for fairness. Oh man, that really goes with what today has been about for me. So let's talk about pretty kind of what we talked about yesterday, chat, right? So yesterday we talked about the two paths, right? And our two paths, our examples from yesterday were David and Absalom, right? And then Jesus, Simon, Peter, and Judas, right? So our two examples for the paths we take are between David and Absalom and Simon and Judas, right? So who are the two similarities between the two? So David and Peter had the two similar paths, and Absalom and Judas had the two similar paths, right? Today also continues that same story, that same trajectory, right? Where we watch the difference between two choices that are made, right? Two conscious choices that we make, right? And the ability to see the truth, right? When, you know, that we can also go take the other path, right? So, so let's get into today's word. So we're going to go over pretty much the same thing we talked about yesterday, where we have two paths, right? We have two paths, right? We have two paths. Who's leading your path? Who's leading your path? So this must be a big statement to pay attention to, because this is back-to-back days that we're talking about the same subject, right? So we really want to ask ourselves, who is leading our path? What path are we taking? Who is leading our path? What path are we taking, right? This has to be a big piece here, because this is the back-to-back days that we're reading about this, right? So who are we talking about today? So we're still talking about David and Absalom today in Samuel. But what are we talking about in John today? We're talking about Pilate and the Jewish leaders at the time, right? So the Jewish leaders and Pilate are two examples from John, and Absalom and David are two examples from Samuel, right? So what happened, and how can we check to see if what path we're taking, right? So it's pretty simple, and we're going to keep this as simple as possible, right? Absalom is attempting to steal from his father because he's angry. He's being led by anger, right? Is that a clear indicator of your path? Being led by anger, is that a clear indicator of your path? Huh? I think he said, yeah, right? Being led by faith and trust, is that a clear indicator of your path? I think he said yes again, right? So how can we tell who's been led by faith and who's been led by revenge and anger in these two stories? Yes, we can. Who's being led by faith? David. He said David. Who else? Pilate as well is also being led by faith, right? But how can Pilate Some random Roman dude, name a video game character not from Fortnite. Not in the game already? I don't know because I haven't played Fortnite in a long time. I don't even know who's in Fortnite. But how can Pilate, right? Because a lot of people assume that only a specific type of people can know can like feel the truth. Some people only assume a specific people can feel the truth, right? But Pilate isn't one of those people. He's a Roman, right? He's a Roman. So doesn't that mean that anybody can know the truth, right? Isn't that what they mean, baby? I think he said yeah, right? Because Pilate was a Roman and he knew the truth, right? Pilate was a Roman and he knew the truth. So that means anybody can know the truth, right? So what's the excuse for not taking the right path if anybody can know the truth? Well, some could say we've been tricked. Some could say, well, I have to get my get back, right? I have to get revenge, right? But what does that lead you to? Where is that going to lead Absalom? Where is that going to lead the Jewish leaders at that time, right? It's going to lead them to where? To destruction, right? And I'm sure as we continue to read, we're going to find out how that happens, right? But what happens when you take the right path? When you let revenge go, when you remember to forgive your neighbor and to love your neighbor, even if they might cross you, right? What happens, baby? I think you're saved. Saved? I don't even think you know what that means. So let's use a different word. Let's use a different word other than save. Maybe you're freed, right? Maybe you're freed. Since you may not know what saved means, maybe that means you're freed. Freed from what? From a long, arduous path of revenge that ends to nothing, that leads to nothing, right? Isn't that right? You get freed from that path of a long, arduous path that leads to nothing. So who do we want to follow in today's stories? Would we rather follow Absalom and the Jewish leaders at that time of this read? Absolutely not, right? Absolutely not. Who would we want to follow though? Would you rather take David and, in this case, crazy to say it, Pilate's path because they knew the truth, right? So what choices are you making? What path are you following? Right? What path are you following? What path are you following? Huh, baby? I feel like you're taking a good path. You're sweet. You trying to say hey to everybody all the time. I feel like you're taking a good path, huh? I know you be bullying your brother though. I know you be bullying your brother because you're small and cute. But I know you're taking a good path. I know you don't mean it, right? It's not out of revenge, just because you love your brother, right? Yeah. The step on my chest means yeah. We locked in. Because you love your brother, right? So, what path would you take? I already know what path you would take. I see you every single day interacting with your brother. You would take the path of love, right? The path of forgiveness. The path of grace, that gives you peace, right? What path would you take, though, chat? What path would you take? What path would I take? I've taken both paths before. I've taken both paths before. And I know exactly how both of them feel. I know how both of them feel. I know that one hurts a lot more. And I know that I'd rather choose forgiveness and to love my neighbor in the future rather than to choose vengeance and revenge in the future. Because it ain't worth it, right? Because it absolutely ain't worth it, right? And that's how we're going to end today's One Year Bible Read. What path are you taking? Right? What path are you taking? It's a great question to ask. What path are you taking? Right? Thank you for having this conversation with me, baby. I really needed that. I appreciate that. I love you too. Thank you. And with that, chat, we're going to end today's One Year Bible Read for day 150 in a row. What path are you taking? Right? And we're going to get prepared for our next read in about 5 minutes. But let's hit this outro if you've never seen this outro before, right? Since she wants to be here, we're gonna do it together, right? Here we go. What can you do to help? Why blame God? Why not think, what can you do to help? But let's hit this outro though, chat. We all got that limitless core, baby. I appreciate you. I might even love you, but I'm for sure glad you woke up today. Thank you for joining me for another One Year Bible Read here on the channel. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. And if you want to join me for the next read, we're about to do Think and Grow Rich right after this one, where we're going to begin our third day of reading that, right? I hope you have a great rest of your day, and thank you for giving me the most valuable thing you could have given me, which is your presence. Hope you have a great and wonderful rest of your day if I don't see you again, and peace. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Love you all, honestly.